Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to some more Shadowverse Worlds Beyond, and I was excited to do a little bit of a tournament report on my Grand Prix run, and thankfully we made it to day 2. No problem with this Kagemitsu, sword tempo version. I've been having a lot of fun with this deck. I think it is quite potent, and just to dive in, and then we'll get into the games, there's just so much Storm in this deck, right? We've got Quick Blader, we've got Kagemitsu, Ravener is dealing face damage that can't be blocked, Centaur, Albert, and then Vulse at times you can set up and make sure that you hit that magic number to knock your opponent out. With Centaur, Centurion super evolving to 10 face damage, Albert to 12. It's not hard to set up lethal, especially even into some of the tougher matchups that Swordcraft deals with, like Portalcraft, Puppets, or the other version. I find that this deck just puts out so much face damage and really pressures your opponent's life total in these huge chunks that unless they really know how to play against it and they really have the right setup, it's going to be really hard for them to deal with it. I've really enjoyed this version quite a lot more than the mid-range, although I think that's really great. I think it's going to get some new tools as we're looking at some of the new reveals for Infinity Evolved coming out very soon, next week. Super, super exciting. I love this deck. Don't know if I played it perfectly in these matches. We're going to kind of just go into it. I played them all last night. And hopefully it's helpful if this is a deck that you've been wanting to wrap your head around or try out or kind of see the strengths and weaknesses of. So, as always, if you like what you're seeing and want to see more, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Other than that, let's dive into the games. All right, so for game 1, we're going to be going against Havencraft Storm version, which is generally what I see. And this class can be really scary to play against. I mean, we're both basically trying to race each other. I think we tend to have a little bit of an easier time. But they could set up some really scary windows. So we keep a pretty solid hand here. Hopefully my camera's in a good spot. I recorded and didn't realize that you couldn't see my hand very well. So yeah, just going to start with our 2 drops. They've got a good curve here. We know that the beast is probably going to be coming in here, the tiger. But really all we need to do is just set up big chunks of lethal. And since they're likely not going to be playing the control version, the chip damage actually matters quite a lot because they just don't have as much life gain sort of staying power. So their curve is fine, but we're still just beating them down. And I take a very conservative approach here, saying like, I just want to save my Evos for Phil. And my Super Evos for the Albert and Centaur in my hand. Some people might disagree with that. I'd be interested to hear in the comments, what you would do. They get their Falcon down, crack us for 6. Makes sense. But we get our value out of our Phil here, which is really nice. We're going to be able to hit them for another 2 plus the Flash Blade. It's 3. They're down to 11, right? Magic number is basically between 12 and 10. Due to Centaur being super evolved and Albert being super evolved. Really good response with the Featherfall. But here, we're just going to be happy to crack them down below 10. Could have also played Vulse, right? That would have been a fine play too. But I say to myself in this game, there's no way I'm playing 2 Alberts. So I might as well play Albert because it's annoying to trade into as a 5-7. It actually makes quite a difference. It beats Selefa because she's going to have to trade in to clear it. They go to 10, and we play Centaur with our play point, which is very convenient. Hit them for 10 in the face, which honestly with this Kage, build tends to be the way I end quite a few games. For our second game here, we're going to be playing against Runecraft, a player who's been playing for quite a while, also at Diamond Group. Doing very well. I went back to Sapphire yesterday, which was nice, after testing a lot of Abysscraft. But we always know this is going to be hard. We kind of we know that they can be high rolling. They're going to do their thing. We're going to do our thing. But I really like this build into Runecraft. I felt like the mid-range kind of ward-heavy build aboard was very hard to navigate because at some point you kind of just run out of gas. They've got the Williams to clear out your boards constantly. I find that just playing the Storm version with this build is just, putting them in a really, really tough position over and over and over again, and they have to really draw well to do it. So huge here. They use their play point for homework time and not for Anangrea this next turn, which means I can get a little bit more proactive with my plays here, which is very nice. Good turn for Miranda, though. I imagine that's kind of why they felt safe doing that, because they knew they could clear out 2 bodies here. And again, I love just making this play. Albert on 5, Evo up to a 5/7, crack for 5. We've got the Centaurs in our hands. We're going to play Amelia next turn. So it's just obviously the most efficient play here. And they play Blaze Destroyer. Basically, that's their whole turn to clear the Albert and Evo. So really, really good spot for us. We get Kage back with his sweet animation. Actually, one of my favorites in the game. And I kind of take my time using cards that are not going to be helpful in the late game to just clear out the board. And I use just Kage Evolve to obviously take care of the Blaze Destroyer, which would be destroying our life total if we don't kill it. So forced to Evo there, unfortunately. But again, this turn we're not seeing Anna Gray. We're just seeing a Super Evolve on the Demonic Shikigami, which is very good news for us. Not having to fight through double Super Evo on Kuon is just like such a big game. And here I could have played the dogs. I choose to play Geno, and I aggressively Super Evolve here. So basically saying if you don't have Kuon, you're dead. If you do, it's still going to be tough for you. That does feel like pretty aggressive for me. I could have been a little bit more conservative, but I find that if you ever get conservative against Runecraft, you're kind of giving them the game. So this is it for them in terms of Evos, though. This is their last Super Evo. Geno's a huge threat. They have to clear it because it's going to be lethal. And here I can just use dogs to clear things out and slowly try and work away at setting up my Centaur here. And I take the Super Evo on Kagemitsu again to just push 6 damage because once they start healing with their Sage Light teachings, it can get really tough. And so they're able to heal a little bit of life, but that doesn't put them out of range of Centaur. But they Dimension Climb as well. Which you always hate to see on 7 or 8. It's usually about when you see it, and it's a good follow-up with Anna Gray here. And another Demonic Call. So, and they also have the Looking Smart. Yeah, it was just such a good recovery from our opponent here. But thankfully, we've kind of got the tools to keep trying to push. And so I decide to just play out 2 4/4s, making it hard for them to deal with. They do have the 3rd Kuon here. Right? Or second Kuon? I can't remember. Yeah, 2nd Kuon. But on 10, we've got the Samurai, which can clear the ward, and we've got Centaur to deal the final 7 damage. So a couple different lines we could have taken. We could have kept a Super Evo, but again, I think it's good just to keep hitting face. For our 3rd game, we'll be playing against a Swordcraft player, a little bit newer to the game than I am, but you know, I'm still very bad at this game. I'm relatively new after grinding quite a bit. And we get a pretty awkward, clunky hand here, which is unfortunate. So I'm not feeling too good about this game. Thankfully, no 1-drop from our opponent. No 2-drop either. So our hand actually kind of fixes itself. We don't even have to play anything out here. We can just play reactively. And so I see the Kage. I assume it's, you know, some version of my deck. Could have played Valst here to try and see if I could do something, but kind of just go for the reactive play. No 4-drop, which probably smart. They don't want to play into Zirconia, but I've got the Albert. So that's always really awesome when you can just push 5 damage with Albert because they don't want to get Zirconia'd from Evolution. Nightly Rend, not my favorite card. Probably not something you want to be playing in more of a Storm version. And then we've got the Zirconia to get some nice board advantage here. So feeling pretty good about this game right now. Play Apollo, which again, in more of the Storm heavy build, I just don't think you need to interact with board that much. You really want to use your evolutions to be pushing damage. So even though they're doing a good job at keeping our board somewhat clear, We're just going to keep pressuring them. And here, don't love super evoing Amelia. I'd rather save it for storm turns, but it's just a pretty efficient turn for us. We get a little bit more board presence, get a little bit of barrier value. Another Nightly Rending, fine. Not really pressuring me again, right? Sorry, just didn't want to clear my throat again for you guys to hear it. And here I take a pretty slow approach and just say, well, if you don't have Ward, you're dead to Valse plus Centaur. And that is, in fact, what ends up happening. So I got to keep clicking my hand here, remember, so y'all can see it better. And that's how Valse can just be really, really nice with your Storm cards, right? It's like they can't interact with it. It's guaranteed 4 to 6 damage, or 7, depending on if you evolve or super evolve, and that is GG. For our fourth game here, we're going to play against what I would assume would be some sort of like Abysscraft mid-range list, and it really can be quite challenging at times. They can kind of exhaust us of resources in terms of the evolution department. And we just have to really think about, turns where we're going to see Kerberos, what's going to be good. So to try and pressure through that, because they could definitely kind of stabilize in the later stages of the game. So they start out with a 2-drop into 2-drop, pretty good. Got Kage Mitsu, which actually gets us quite a bit of card advantage this game, you'll notice. Just kind of crashing it into stuff, getting it back. And here I kind of choose to go for a little bit of like a value play. I typically love sacrificing Bone Mancer, using it to set up turns with the skeletons as well. And so I just kind of take the time to attack the board here, which, again, be interested to see what players think. Maybe that's not the right thing to do. But I'm kind of playing from my experience with this type of deck, where they can aggress, they can defend, but if you take away some of their resources on board, it makes it a little bit harder for them, because they have a lot of, like, sacrifice a thing, draw 2 cards, sacrifice a thing, do this, or, get shadows that they need. And I choose to go for board here again, just because I was behind on tempo. Could have attacked for 3 and just taken another 3, but good, really good Darksteel Demon here to clear out Zirconia, clear out a token. But we've got our second Zirconia. Pretty happy to play it. We've got Coachwoman to also buff up as well. So we just trade that. Get our tokens chip for 3. 6 is usually a pretty awkward turn for the deck. And they have to Super Evo Phil now. So that definitely feels pretty good for us. They're able to clear out 2 things. They play a Mummy just to trade with a token. Very good. That we don't have to worry about that. Good Soul Predation. They get the value off the Super Evo, which is a cool synergy. We get Kage back. Oh, and this is where... Hold on. Okay. Is it this? Yes, it was this turn. Okay. So, we know that... I did this when I was first recording too, I forgot. We know that Kerberos is coming next turn on 8. What I should have done was play Albert, ignore what I did there. Play Albert, if Evo Kagemitsu, hit for 5 with Kagemitsu, hit for 3 with Albert, that's 8, 9, 10, 11. Knock them to 4 life. The max amount of life they can gain is 6, so they would go up to 10 off of crashing 3 Mimis into me, and then I just kill them with Centaur next turn for 10. So this is me not doing math properly, not being cognizant of all I need to do is set up Centaur for lethal, and what I should have done was just play Albert, ignore the board, and hit. And thankfully, our opponent also makes a bit of a blunder here, but otherwise we should have gotten punished for that misplay. So that's why when I say mastering this deck, I'm still working on the mastery part of it. So there it is, Kerberos. They can Evo and go up to 11 here, or rather go up to 13, but they messed this up. So they traded the Mimi, which is correct. They Evo to get back 2 Mimis. And I've done this myself, they forget that they have to crash these into something that has 2 attack. So they just don't crash either of them, and they stay at 9. Right? And so I just kill them with Centaur. So they also might not have known what life total to hit, but they fully could have stopped us from ending the game here if they played appropriately. So we both blunder. We end up getting rewarded for it. Yeah, sometimes that's how you learn. And for our final round in the Grand Prix, and thankfully, if you get 4 wins, you're going to move on to Group Stage 2. This is just icing on the cake if we can win this. And this is a game where, again, I make pretty clear blunder that does cost us quite a lot. So we've got a really great starting hand, plenty to do, but I will say every time in the mirror, if your opponent has the play points, it's going to be really hard, right? They have first evolution, and they've got more efficient turns than you, especially when it comes to the late game where they can Albert before you. So we're really up against it just from that perspective, and then also if we make any mistakes, we're going to get punished very hard. And so here is where I should be registering, okay, there aren't that many builds of sword. Typically it's going to be Kage, Storm, or it's going to be mid-range. Seeing Apollo, and then I think seeing some of these other turns, I should just be thinking they are mid-range. They are the mid-range sword version, and we'll talk about why that's relevant right at the end of the game. They've got their Zirconia, just a solid turn for them, but we get a couple bodies to stick. It's a good filled out evolve here. Allows us to clear out the Zirconia. Clear out a token. And then again, here, maybe I shouldn't be trading like this, but I just kind of say to myself, if I can keep the board clear, because they could have another Zirconia, then I think that's a better advantage. They've got Amelia, got their Samurai, and they choose to hold an Evo. That's probably correct. Here I go Hounds and say, all right, I'm just going to try and get some advantage. And this Evo, I think, is a mistake. I love pushing damage like this, but I think I just need to recognize this game's probably going to go longer because it's mid-range. I almost get like immediately punished here. And just save that Evo for something else. So I play, this is my first blunder in this game. And then there's a second pretty big, right? So I draw Phil off the top. Obviously I didn't know that, but I should have recognized that I probably need an Evo to just deal with the amount of boards that they're going to keep producing. We still get to do pretty good work here. We put them to 12. We've got the Albert in our hands, so it's not like we're throwing the game. But we see the next Zirconia here. Just very, very good turn for them. Sort of happy to see the Super Evo on Zirconia because it's not that scary. Okay, and then I'm going to pause here after we draw, because here is where the blunder comes. Okay. All right, so here I choose to remove that soldier, and here's why that's wrong. So we've got the tentacles, right, and we can gain a little bit of life and try and stay out of range. Now, I understand, I totally, from my perspective, I am like, if they have ward, we're maybe screwed, but if they don't, we win, and even if they do, we should still be pretty great because they use their play point. I'm going to get to Albert first, and I'm also at 20. Now, if I don't kill that little 2/3 unit, right, they can only play 1 unit on the board next turn. Why that's relevant? Unless that is a Storm card, and if they play a Storm card and they've got a full board, I'm dead, right? Because it would be 7, 8, 9 from the night I killed, 10, 11, 12, 13, plus 3. They have 16 on board, essentially, with their Super Evolution. If they play Albert, so it's 16. They would have to be running, what, Centaur? Why I say I needed to recognize this was mid-range, because if I recognize this is mid-range, then I keep their board full. They can't build a ward board by playing 1 card. That's not how that works. And then I play Albert and I win. So even though it feels really weird to do this, I should just tentacle hitting their face, right? Because the other reason I should do that instead of removing their unit, even though I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to die if I don't kill something, is because if they go to 7, right, all I have to do with Albert is clear something. They go to 6, hit their face for 6. So just in so many ways, I'm wrong here. So as long as we're at 20, there's basically no way they can kill us besides Centaur. And so if I recognize that, then basically there's no way I can't win this game. Unfortunately, it's going to be my demise making that blunder. Amalia, Super Evo, the last ward. And I would have won if I just hit their face with Tentacle. If I just didn't pay attention to the board. And this is a blunder that I make often. I pay too much attention to the board and not enough attention to making sure I'm playing to my outs properly. Or thinking about what their outs could be a little bit more thoroughly. And so we just lose off of this because they're going to be able to rebuild their board with Amalia. And that's going to be GG. Because I'm out of gas, and there's nothing that's going to get through these wards now. So, huge blunder, ends up losing me this match, and was a good lesson for me to learn. Alright folks, that's what I got for you today. Glad I was able to record this video properly, and hopefully it was interesting and more than anything informative to see how this deck plays, see how I make mistakes so you don't make the same ones. I learned a ton from this. I'm really excited to play in these Grand Prix and see how far I can get. Definitely making those blunders that lost me that last game and almost lost me the game against Abysscraft was just a really good thing for me to keep in mind. Just making sure I'm really lining up the numbers every single time to give myself the best percentage to win the game. So this was a lot of fun for me to do. I hope it was fun for you guys to watch. And as always, thanks for sticking with me, and I will catch you guys next time.